Junction, Kings Landing, Apsley, Hemel Hempstead, Berkhamsted, and Pickering.
I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about how I made these, just in case someone is brave enough to try it. I made a number of styles. And why did I do that? Because I found it interesting. When I made these, I hadn't quite perfected my insulator design yet, and they're a bit tall. But the essentials of the design are still pretty valid, except for the height of the insulator and probably the spacing on the crossbars. Here's another one. This approach is a more standard design right here. This is a very old design out of the steam era with the alternating short and long crossbars, cross beams. And of course the red at the top, that's for power. That's to keep the linemen from getting tangled up in it, or whatever those guys are called. I couldn't find that. Another design, and even another one. Now, on these, of course, I had gotten to the point where I had perfected the design of my insulators a lot better. These are not nearly as tall, and consequently, I can put the cross beams closer together than I could in this. These are really too tall. Once again, pretty standard. I think this is a repeat. Oh, I can take the tape off of here, I think. I had tape on there while I was waiting for the super glue to set up. And I got my information, or most of it anyway, from a web page, RM Web, and I'll give you the address for it. The article was written by a fellow who was very interested in modeling these things, and he was modeling for gauge 1, I believe, so I had to convert his dimensions to 00. And the spacing is about 25 inches for me in inches, which is about scale for the distance between. This one's probably a little bit too close here to the signal box. I could have moved it down and then moved that down and so on, but it worked out about right, because then this one is about the right distance from here, which spaces me out here and down there. So how did I make them? And if you're interested in making some or trying your hand at it, you'll be able to once you see how I did it. This is what I use for the insulators. And I inserted this rod. This is what I use for the poles. And in order to angle the tops, I put this rod down inside of it to make it solid. This is my chopper. It's got a blade. It has these which allow you to cut 45s and 60 degrees. That is 30 degrees and 90 degrees. And you put these on here. You clamp them with these little clamps, and that allows you to cut whatever you want very accurately and very repetitively. So I cut these little short pieces of rod, of the small rod, insert one of those into that, like this. Here's one that's made up. So the next thing you do, turn the light on so I can see, is you have to drill this. And when I did it with two different size drills. I'm going to have to zoom in so you can see this. Oops. And then I took a second drill and reamed it so that this rod would fit in there. And I would run it down so it was just almost all the way. Enough, I'd leave enough so that I could get my brush in there to paint some rust when I painted it. Or after it was all painted, then I would put some rust in there. So get a little solvent here and glue that. You can't let it sit on the board very long, or if you do, you need to move it. Here's I cut this post off. It was after I painted it. Actually, it's the larger size post. I went to a smaller size post. I was trying to make everything as small as possible. So once you get these, then of course you have to take a post, and because I want to chamfer the end, I inserted a rod in there. It's pretty tight fit, but you can get it in there. Okay, now I've got a rod in there. See, my files are here. So I have a little desk vise that's clamped to my table, and the way I did this was the first one I kind of did it by eye. But then I have some marks where I measured out and I put a flat where I put a little scratch in the top of the vise so that I knew where to put the next one, and so on until I had 4 as a demonstrator. So then I'd lay that there, put a drop on there to start softening that. And the tubing is polystyrene, so it's not quite as soft as the shapes. Now that won't really harden up for quite a while. And then to keep them all parallel, I would keep them on there and put the next one on. And when I got done, I just take this over and I'd lay it flat and press on it so that they'd all be parallel, at least in one plane. And then, you know, you may have to adjust it a little bit so that it's parallel on the other plane. Now this glue and this material, it stays flexible for a little while. The next thing that has to be done is to glue a tiny bead on the tops of these poles, or on the tops of the insulators, to give it that curved look. So you just put a drop of, or a tiny bit of super glue on there, and then you just drop that on. It's pretty easy. These are check glass beads. I call them Indian beads because they're real small, and when I was a kid we used to make bracelets and all kinds of little things with our Indian beads. Had little looms to make them on. So that one has the insulator, that one does not. I'll go ahead and put an insulator on that one. Oops. What's this? Gradu. So there we go. And then this needs to be chamfered. I'll show you an example of that. And then you just let that set up. I made up these cheat sheets so that I could, this is to scale, this is 00 scale, in the design that I'm trying to use anyway. Get that thing off of there. So that I could lay the piece down and mark it. And I did all three of the designs that I'm building.